Back again with another Bond review, and today we're going to talk about Never Say Never Again, the unofficial Bond film. And this one's interesting. I mean, there's a little bit to unpack here in regards to information, so I'll do that first, and then I'll get to my review. But, like I mentioned before, a lot of these Bond movies I'm going in for the first time watching. I mean, I've seen a few before, but a lot of these I'm going in with the fresh eyes, so I may not have the knowledge offhand to talk about and share. So with each movie, I try to look at a little bit of, information and give you a bullet point here and there. And that's something too that I had to work on in these reviews because I started to notice from the very beginning that each movie, from the first movie and on, each film has a wealth of history and information. That if I were to cover that and plus review the film, every review would be about 45 minutes to an hour, or a little bit more, maybe an hour and some change. So I'm like, okay, I have to sort of scale back on going in too deep on the development of the movie and just review the movie. Just give you my thoughts. But I don't mind doing that here because, again, this one is interesting. It came out the same year as Octopussy, so you would have a battle of the Bonds here, Bond versus Bond. And yeah, like I said, I will go over some information which you can find. I mean, this is nothing new. So for people out there that know about this film, what I'm about to say is going over the obvious here, and you'd be correct. But like I said, to provide some background for those who may not be aware of this movie. So I've typed up some stuff here, and I'll just read off. But Never Say Never Again is pretty much a remake of Thunderball. Now, it's based on the 1961 Bond novel Thunderball, which had been adapted in a 1965 film under the same name. Unlike the majority of Bond films, Never Say Never Again was not produced by Eon Productions, but by association with Kevin McClory, one of the original writers of the Thunderball storyline, with Enid Fleming and Jack Whittingham. McClory retained the filming rights of the novel following a long legal battle dating from the 1960s. This movie was basically made because of remake rights owned by Kevin McClory, and situations which McClory claimed he owned, including Spectre and Insignia, characters of Blofeld and Domino Smith and Fatima Blush, Bond up against the hijack of an atomic bomb, Bond fighting the Sicilian Mafia, the health clinic aspect, the Bahamas location, a rocket-firing motorcycle. Eon Productions owned the James Bond theme and logo, plus a considerable number of characters and situations. Elements that were shared by both parties, including James Bond, casino gambling, the characters of M and Q, Miss Moneypenny, Felix Slider, and the Aston Martin DB5, which did not appear in this movie, but that vehicle did appear in Thunderball. Connery played the role of Bond for the seventh and final time on screen, marking his return to the character 12 years after Diamonds Are Forever. The film's title is a reference to Connery's reported declaration in 1971 that he would never play that role again. And at this time, Connery, filming this movie, was 52, nearly 3 years younger than Roger Moore. The storyline features an aging Bond who was brought back into action to investigate the theft of 2 nuclear weapons by Spectre. Now, the movie was intended to go head-to-head with the official Eon Productions Bond film Octopussy at the box office. This movie came out 4 months after that because the movie starred Roger Moore and Sean Connery, each equally recognized to the public as Bond at the time. Much of the talk in the press was a battle of the Bonds, Bond versus Bond showdown. Most of the analysts in the industry predicted that this movie would win out in the box office because of Connery's return. And it had a much larger production budget than Octopussy. But according to a press release in 1985, this was not the case. Variety quoted that figures from MGM and Warner Brothers that Octopussy's gross here in the States was about 68 million, and it's let's see, am I getting this right? And okay, so Octopussy and the U.S. grossed about 68 million, and Never Say Never Again grossed about 56 million, and Octopussy's worldwide gross was close to 188 million, and this movie's worldwide gross was about 160 million. And the article also stated that, according to the studios, Octopussy had 34 million in rentals, and this movie had 28 million in rentals. So when the final results were in, this movie and Sean Connery ended up losing the Battle of Bonds, the Bond versus Bond showdown. Now, also of note, Sean Connery was given a little bit more of a creative input with this movie, which is one of the reasons why he decided to do it. He had input on the casting and so forth, and so that's one little sidebar. But yeah, I mean, this movie is pretty much a remake of Thunderball with, some slight differences. But so there you go. I mean, just a little bit of information to share, which again you can find out there. But the movie itself, Never Say Never Again. It was interesting. I mean, I would say at the most, it was a decent watch. It does have some decent parts to it, but it definitely has a weird vibe to it because, I mean, Sean Connery's not the problem here. Even though you can say, definitely Sean Connery, you can see his age here. Again, he was around 52, 53, which you can say the same for Roger Moore. But, when I think about and look at the movie overall, at points, it doesn't feel like a Bond movie. It's weird. Like, even from the beginning, I mean, it's a fun opening where you see Bond, he's kicking ass. And then you find out that it's actually like a training exercise. Like he's at some kind of like a training course because they're trying to make sure that Bond is up to par and he's up for the job, that they're trying to keep him healthy and that he's, that he's the 007 that we remember and that he's fit, that he's, suited for the field. And I like that aspect of it, even though Sean Connery, he looks like to be in decent shape, so I don't know. I don't understand that. I mean, it's not like Sean Connery is overweight here. It's not like he's obese in the movie. Even for a 52, 53-year-old man, actor at this time, I mean, he's still in decent shape. So, I don't know what is considered overweight or out of shape in 1983. But I like the way the film starts off where you see Bond, he's kicking some ass. But like I said, he's actually in training here. It's like some kind of exercise. And like I said, you kind of get some familiar beats of familiar territory of the Thunderball plot here with some slight differences here and there. When I look at the rest of the cast, let me pull it up here for a second. Wow, I just totally closed out that tab. So let's go back for a second. So Sean Connery again, he wasn't bad here. Actually, considering his age, he wasn't bad. You also have our villain here, Largo, like in Thunderball, Spectre #1. And I didn't mind this actor here. I mean, I thought he was a little bit better than the actor they had in Thunderball. I felt that this one had a little bit more of a presence. a little bit more of a personality. And this guy I've never seen before, but looking at his filmography, he was in Out of Africa, some other movies. But, like I said, he wasn't bad here. Klaus Maria Brandauer. I know I'm probably botching his last name. You would have Blofeld in the film for a little bit, played by Max von Sydow. Yeah, great actor from The Exorcist and Judge Dredd and other movies. I know he's passed away, but it was cool to see that character. You know it's Blofeld. I mean, he's holding his cat in the film. He's not in the film too much, like a little bit here in the beginning of the film, and that's kind of it. Like after that, you don't really see much of Blofeld. One of our other villains here, this character Fatima Blush, played by Barbara Carrera, and I thought she was good here. A good villain. You also have Kim Basinger. Yeah, Kim Basinger from Batman as Domino. And Kim Basinger was, very pretty. Definitely one of the, probably I would say, underrated Bond girl. One of the unsung. Yeah, I mean, this character's been portrayed before, but, I mean, it's Kim Basinger. I mean, she was hot in this movie. Especially the scene where 007's giving her a deep massage or a hard massage. And she's like, go deeper. I'm like, oh, I wish I was Sean Connery. No, but getting off track here. Kim Basinger, I thought she was good here as Domino. And, great actress. Love her as an actress. You have Felix Slider, played by Bernie Casey here, which was cool. Bernie Casey from Bill and Ted. The first Bill and Ted movie. And some other films. You also have kind of the Q character, but it's not Q. This character, Algie, who is kind of giving Bond his gadgets. And I didn't mind the actor. Of course, the character of M is, someone else, because I think Bernard Lee had passed away. I think the last one he did was For Your Eyes Only. I could be wrong about that. But I know that actor had passed. Miss Moneypenny would come here, I think, for a little bit. Or actually may have a different actress. I think it was a different actress, yeah. Or M's secretary, yeah. Rowan Atkinson, appears in the film as a contact in the Bahamas. Yeah, Mr. Bean, which I didn't expect. And I don't know if I really cared for his character as much. It's interesting to see Rowan Atkinson here. That character, he's kind of a jumpy, again, character. But, again, it was interesting to see Rowan Atkinson here in a Bond movie. Like I said, even though I don't know if you really needed the character, but that's just me. But, overall the cast, and again, Sean Connery, aside from his age, I thought he did good here. I mean, if there's one thing about the film, I say that it's a time waster with some fun bits, some decent stuff, some decent bits of action, what have you. At least I can say Sean Connery, nothing's changed. Like, it's still, he's still good here. He's still a good Bond. Even, 12 years later after Diamonds Are Forever. And, like I mentioned before, him declaring that he would never play the character again. And then his wife said, well, never say never again. And that's apparently where the title came from. So, but, going back to Sean Connery, again, Sean Connery, he's good here. And it was also cool to see Max von Sydow, even for a little bit, and Kim Basinger, who's hot, Bernie Casey. And, one thing about this movie, it definitely has an 80s feel to it. I mean, and I did not care for the theme, I will be honest. I will admit that. I thought the theme was kind of shitty. And the score was forgettable. But you could definitely say here, this movie definitely has that sort of 80s backdrop. It definitely has an 80s feel to it. Like if Thunderball was made in the 80s, this is what it would look like. And I like some of the aspects of that throughout the movie. You have a couple of scenes where this one scene where Bond is playing this video game with our villain Largo, this game of domination. It looks like virtual battleship. And I don't know how exactly the game is played, but I like the way that it looked. And you have this one scene where, Bond is at a party, and this is before that scene. And the party, it looks very proper, like a high society party. And then you see like arcade machines. I'm like, okay, this is definitely, going into the 80s here. And again, I like some of the, how I mentioned before, the aspect of, Bond, that they're trying to make sure that he's up to snuff, up to par, that he's suited for the field and he's in shape and that he's fit. And that's kind of leading to, you got some decent action in the beginning where he's working out in this gym and, this guy jumps on him and, tries to crush Bond with the weights. And then Bond gets into a good fight with this guy where, they're throwing each other around and Bond is throwing like shelves at the guy and all sorts of stuff. I mean, they're at this health clinic, so they're, fighting down the halls and they're fighting in the kitchen. I mean, Bond and this guy, they're fighting everywhere. And Bond is just throwing stuff at this guy and they're going, trying to kill each other. But that was a good fight. Definitely one of the more, memorable action scenes in the film. And you get some decent action here and there. I mean, you get this one scene where Bond is underwater and this girl put this like sonar device on his tank, on his scuba gear. And then suddenly all these sharks are coming in and they're going after Bond, and Bond is swimming through this sunken ship and trying to evade the sharks. And I like that stuff. And then towards the end, you get a little bit of action. It's nothing, spectacular, where you see Bond at this temple and even like, the character Largo, his comeuppance, it was there. But the thing is, and it's kind of where it's hard for me to say this is a great movie because, like Octopussy, both movies, the action lacks. I will be honest. I mean, if I look at, the action compared to between Octopussy and this movie, which has better action, perhaps I would give the edge to Octopussy a little bit more, but the action is few far in between. I mean, there's some notable moments here in this movie. I mean, again, I mentioned the fight with that guy in the health clinic and, the stuff with the sharks. But it happens, feels like every so often. Like a little bit of a dash of action here, a little dash of action, a little dash of action. And you get a little bit in the third act. But it's nothing, again, spectacular. You have one scene, I almost forgot, but Bond breaks out of this fort. Like, this fort is on top of this cliff. And he breaks out on the horse. And he's... Bond, Kim Basinger's character, and the horse, they go over a cliff and into the ocean. And that scene, I will say, looked a little bit silly. But my thing is, and that's kind of getting to what I wanted to say with this movie, if it's if this is a remake of Thunderball, with slight differences, what have you, I felt that this movie should have just went for it. I mean, think about it. This is 1983. We're really going into the this era, the golden era of action movies. I mean, really go for it. Really beef up the action. And hell, if you're trying to, I mean, in this movie, like I said, you see Connery's Bond, getting into shape and trying to be fit and what have you. Throw in a freaking montage. Can you imagine how this film would have been with a montage? I mean, you have James Bond, really getting into shape. And I think it would have been cool. Because, year before you had Rocky 3, right? I mean, this film definitely could have used like a montage to really, get the film going and get you pumped. I mean, because again, we're going into the 80s here. And it's like, they could have really put more into the action. Like, really go for it. Have Bond do throw in a montage and, where you can have fun with it. And, Bond is really trying to... And again, I don't understand the whole thing of, okay, he's out of shape and he's not fit enough. But, I see Bond in the film. Again, I don't think he's that too out of shape. He's pretty fit for a 52-year-old man, actor, what have you. I know it's fictional, but again, it's just one of those things. But if you're going to go with that angle, do a montage. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, what do I like more? Do I like Octopussy or do I like this more? And it's hard for me to pick. Maybe Octopussy has a slight edge over this movie. Even though, again, you could say more, showing his age. Sean Connery does here to an extent. But it just felt like the action was few far in between. I didn't like the theme for this movie, and the score was silly. I think it definitely could have used more beefing up in the action department. And I know the director, Irvin Kershner, the same guy that directed Empire Strikes Back and RoboCop 2. I wonder if they would have gotten another director. He's a good director, but what if you had gotten someone else to take on this movie? What they could have brought to the table? Maybe like a Peter Hyams. Why not go with a Peter Hyams? Or, I know people might scoff a little bit, but why not a Brian De Palma? What would he do with a Bond movie? What would he do with this type of movie? And Irvin Kershner, I mean, I would say Empire Strikes Back and RoboCop 2 are definitely better movies. But at the end of the day, as a film, which I know this is the unofficial Bond movie, that it's kind of disregarded, it has its decent moments. It has some fun moments with the character sprinkled here and there throughout the movie. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's enough for me to say, oh, this is a great movie. Because I don't like the theme. I don't like the score. I will say I like the cast. I like the Largo actor they got for that character. It was cool to see Max von Sydow, and Kim Basinger's hot. And Bernie Casey. So on the cast front, I would say this film... And Thunderball, when I talk about that, Thunderball is a decent Bond movie, but it's not my favorite. I would say I like the cast here a little bit more. And then that too, maybe they could have worked on the pacing. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I know I'm just sort of blabbering on here with this movie. And while it has this, it has its weird vibes, which I can admit. It's decent. Well, it's a decent time waster. Some fun moments here and there, but that's kind of it. I mean, and it's kind of, my overall thoughts on this movie. It was interesting to watch. I'm glad I finally saw the movie. But the worst Bond movie, that's yet to come. But, yeah, I mean, no, this is not the worst Bond movie. It was interesting to watch. Sean Connery's good, along with the cast. Decent moments sprinkled throughout. but wasn't anything that blew me away. And maybe, again, if you could have gotten another director, what this could have brought to the table. So that's my thoughts on this movie, and I know I probably went on and what have you, but that's my review of Never Say Never Again. But yeah, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for my review of A View to a Kill. So thank you for watching, and have a good day.